He thought he had the perfect life, a successful career, a loving wife, and a home in California. But when she became his boss and gave him his job to her lover, Dan's world fell apart. Betrayal, intrigue, and cold-blooded revenge. Can he regain control and make those responsible pay? Find out in this story about power, deception, and justice. My name is Dan Crawford. I'm 35, and this is the story of how my wife Emily turned my world upside down and how I fought back. 3 months ago, life seemed perfect. We lived in a sleek San Francisco condo with a view of the bay, both climbing the ladder at Nexlify, a rising tech firm. I was the head of sales, turning numbers into gold, while Emily, 34, dazzled as a marketing whiz in a software startup. We'd been married 5 years, a power couple who thrived on ambition and late-night strategy sessions. That all changed the day she walked into our kitchen, her eyes gleaming with that familiar spark. Dan, she said, setting her coffee mug down with a clink, I've been offered the CEO spot at Nexlify. I froze, mid-sip. CEO? That's incredible! I meant it, pride swelled in my chest. She deserved it. Her talent was undeniable. When do you start? Next week, she replied, her smile widening. They want me to shake things up. Guess I'll be reporting to the boss now, I teased, pulling her into a hug. She laughed, and for a moment, it felt like nothing could touch us. But that moment didn't last. The first crack appeared a week later. Emily strode into Nexlify's glass-walled office, towing a new shadow, Kyle Ridley, her freshly hired assistant. He was 30, all sharp suits and sharper grins, with zero experience in sales or tech. He's got potential, she told me that night over takeout, brushing off my raised eyebrow. I need someone I can mold. Mold into what? I pressed, stabbing a piece of sushi. He's never led a team. Neither had I when I started, she shot back. Her tone clipped. Give him a chance, Dan. I let it go, but unease gnawed at me. Kyle wasn't just her assistant, he was her shadow, lingering in every meeting, every call. Then came the bombshell. 2 weeks into her reign, HR called me in. Dan, the manager began, her voice cautious, company policy doesn't allow spouses to report directly to each other. You'll be under Kyle now. I blinked. Under Kyle? The guy who's been here 5 minutes. It's a formality, she assured me, but it didn't feel formal when the board announced my sales department. My pride, my 4-year streak of record profits would now answer to him. I was reassigned to customer support, a sinking ship no one wanted. That night, I confronted Emily. What the hell is this? I demanded, pacing our living room. You gave my job to Kyle? It's not like that, she said, crossing her arms. The board wanted fresh eyes on sales. You're the only one I trust to fix support. Fresh eyes? I snapped. He doesn't know a damn thing about our clients. Dan, stop, she said, her voice softening. This is business. You're still vital here. But her words rang hollow. I saw it in her eyes, something had shifted. She wasn't my partner anymore. She was my boss. And Kyle? He was everywhere, smirking in the halls, laughing with her behind closed doors. By week 3, I caught her texting him at midnight, her face lit by the glow of her phone. Work stuff, she mumbled when I asked. I didn't buy it. Something was rotting beneath the surface, and I was done pretending it wasn't there. I'm Dan Crawford, and by now, I was starting to see the cracks in my marriage to Emily widen into a chasm. After she became CEO of Nexlify and dropped me under her new assistant Kyle Ridley's thumb, things at our San Francisco condo got tense. I'd spent years building the sales team into a machine, record profits, happy clients, the works. Now, I was sidelined to customer support, a department everyone knew was a dumpster fire, while Kyle, a guy who couldn't sell water in a desert, took my spot. Emily swore it was just business, but her late nights and evasive answers told a different story. It started small. A week into the shuffle, I caught her laughing on the phone at midnight. Kyle's got this crazy idea for the pitch, she said when I raised an eyebrow, brushing it off. I let it slide, but the calls kept coming 10 p.m., 1 a.m., always work stuff. Then there was the board meeting. I'd prepped a report on support metrics, solid, considering the mess I'd inherited, when Emily cut in. Dan, these numbers are off, she said, her tone sharp enough to slice glass. Kyle's team is already ahead. I stared at her, jaw tight. I triple-checked them, Em. She didn't flinch. Check again. The room shifted awkwardly, and Kyle smirked from his seat. My blood boiled. She wasn't just my boss. She was humiliating me. That night, I confronted her. We were in the kitchen, the city lights flickering outside our floor-to-ceiling windows. What's going on, Em? I asked, keeping my voice steady. You tanked me in front of everyone. She sighed, pouring herself a glass of Pinot. Dan, it's not personal. Kyle needs a win to prove himself. You're fine where you are. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Fine? You gave my department to a rookie and expect me to eat it? What's he got on you? Her eyes flashed. Don't be ridiculous. It's about the company. I didn't buy it. The way she defended him, the late-night giggles, it was too cozy. The next day at Nexlify, the whispers started. I grabbed coffee in the break room with Liz, a finance analyst who'd been my ally since day one. Liz, level with me, I said, keeping my voice low. What's the deal with Emily and Kyle? She glanced at the door, hesitant. Dan, it's just gossip, but they're tight. Like, always together tight. People think she's pushing him up for more than his resume. My stomach dropped. More? She shrugged. You know how it looks, closed-door meetings, her backing him over you. It's weird. I nodded, the gears turning. Weird didn't cut it. Something was rotten. I couldn't shake it. That evening, I sat in our living room, the hum of the city below doing nothing to calm me. Emily was at the office again, and I was done guessing. I needed proof. I dialed Liz again. Can you pull some data for me? I asked. Kyle's sales numbers? Anything off? She paused. Dan, that's risky. If Emily finds out, she won't. I cut in. Please, Liz. I need to know what I'm dealing with. She sighed. Fine. Give me a day. I hung up, my mind racing. If Kyle was screwing up, I'd have leverage. If not, I'd dig deeper. Liz delivered the next morning. We met in a corner of the cafeteria, her laptop open. Here, she said, sliding it over. Kyle's numbers are padded, returns he didn't log, deals he's claiming from your old team. I scanned the screen, my pulse quickening. So he's a fraud? Maybe, she said. But Emily signed off on it. She's covering for him. I leaned back, the pieces clicking. Why? Liz shook her head. That's the million-dollar question. I thanked her and walked out, the weight of it sinking in. Emily wasn't just favoring Kyle, she was burying me to prop him up. That night, Emily came home late, her perfume sharp and unfamiliar. Long day? I asked, not looking up from my laptop. Yeah, Kyle's pitch ran over, she said, too quickly. I nodded, casually. He's lucky to have you. She froze for a split second, then smiled. He's learning fast. Bullshit. I waited till she was asleep, then grabbed her phone from the nightstand. I'd seen her unlock it 100 times. Her passcode was our anniversary, 0519. It worked. I scrolled through her text with Kyle. Can't wait to see you. You're the best part of this job. My chest tightened. No smoking gun, but enough to fuel the fire in my gut. I put the phone back, my hand shaking. This wasn't just about work anymore. By Friday, I was a man on edge. Emily announced a team huddle, her and Kyle front and center. Dan, update us on support, she said, her tone clipped. I stood, voice calm. We're up 10% in satisfaction. Numbers are solid. Kyle smirked. Still trailing sales, though. I shot back. Funny, considering your sales are built on my old deals. The room tensed. Emily's eyes narrowed. Enough, Dan. Focus on your lane. I sat, fuming. She was protecting him again. That's when I decided, no more playing nice. I'd find the truth, and if it was as bad as I feared, I'd make them both regret crossing me. I'm Dan Crawford, and by this point, I was done swallowing the lies Emily and Kyle were feeding me. My life at Nexlify in San Francisco had gone from a dream gig to a nightmare. Emily, my wife, turned CEO, had demoted me to customer support while propping up her assistant, Kyle Ridley, her golden boy with a shady streak. The late-night calls, the padded sales numbers Liz uncovered, the flirty texts I'd glimpsed on Emily's phone, it all pointed to something uglier than a power play. I needed proof, and I was ready to burn it all down to get it. The tipping point came on a rainy Monday. I was in the Nexlify cafeteria, nursing a black coffee, when Liz slid into the seat across from me. Her face was tight, eyes darting like she'd seen a ghost. Dan, I dug deeper, she whispered, pushing a USB drive my way. Kyle's numbers aren't just padded, they're fake. And Emily's signatures are all over the approvals. I took the drive, my fingers cold. Fake how? She leaned in. He's logging sales that never closed, millions in projected revenue that don't exist. Emily's covering it up, probably to keep the board off his back. I stared at her. Why risk that? Liz hesitated. That's not all. I heard them arguing in her office, something about keeping it quiet. It didn't sound professional. My pulse spiked. Thanks, Liz. I owe you. She nodded, slipping away as I pocketed the drive. Game on. That night, I waited till Emily crashed, her deep breaths filling our condo's silence. Her phone was on the charger, still unlocked with 0519. I scrolled further this time. Meet me at the Marriott tonight. Kyle had texted last week. Emily's reply. Only if you behave. My stomach churned. I snapped photos of the thread with my own phone, hands trembling. Then I checked her laptop, left open on the couch from her late work. A quick search in her emails found a thread with Kyle titled Q3 Projections. Buried in it was a draft report. My support numbers slashed, his sales inflated. She doctored it. I copied it to Liz's USB, my heart pounding. This wasn't just betrayal, it was sabotage. I couldn't confront her yet. I needed more. The next day, I played it cool at Nexlify, dodging Emily's probing how's support going, with a curt fine. She didn't push, but Kyle lingered by her side, all smug grins. I skipped lunch and drove to a dive bar across town to meet Tom, an old college buddy turned PI. Dan, you look like hell, he said, sliding me a beer. I feel it, I shot back. I need you to tail Emily and Kyle. Off the books. He raised an eyebrow. You sure? This could get messy. I slid him a wad of cash, half my savings. Messy's fine. I need photos, proof, whatever they're hiding. Tom nodded. Give me 48 hours. Those 48 hours were torture. Emily was perkier than usual, dropping lines like Kyle's really stepping up, over dinner, her smile too bright. I nodded along, choking down my rage. Wednesday night, Tom texted, check your email. I locked myself in the bathroom, opened my laptop, and clicked. There they were, grainy shots of Emily and Kyle slipping into a motel off the 101, her hand on his arm, his lips brushing her ear in the parking lot. A timestamp, 11 p.m., last Friday, when she'd claimed a board call. Then a video clip, short, shaky, but clear, them laughing, tangled up outside the room, her keycard flashing. My chest caved. This wasn't suspicion anymore. It was a gut punch. I called Tom. You're a wizard, I said, voice hoarse. There's more, he replied. I hacked a burner phone Kyle's been using. Text to Emily about keeping Dan out, and the board can't know. They're scared of you. I smirked bitterly. They should be. I hung up, staring at the evidence. Emily wasn't just cheating, she was tanking my career to shield her lover. And the fake numbers? A ticking bomb. If the board saw this, they'd both crash. Thursday morning, I walked into Nexlify like nothing had changed. Emily cornered me by the elevators. You've been quiet, she said, her tone probing. Everything okay? I forced a smile. Peachy, just focused. She studied me, then nodded. Good. Kyle's presenting tomorrow, big sales update. Be there. Wouldn't miss it, I said, my voice flat. Inside, I was plotting. Liz's data, Tom's photos, the doctored report. I had an arsenal. But I needed one more piece. I texted Liz, can you get me the live sales portal access? Her reply came fast, risky, but yes. Tonight. I spent the day prepping, tweaking my support stats, legit ones to shine. If Kyle wanted a stage, I'd steal it. That night, Liz slipped me the portal login. Be careful, Dan, she warned. Emily's watching you. Let her, I said. Back home, Emily was out, another late meeting. I logged in, cross-checked Kyle's fake sales against retime data. The gap was glaring $3 million in ghost revenue. I saved it all, my plan locking into place. Tomorrow, they'd face the music. I wasn't just some demoted husband anymore. I was a man with nothing left to lose, and they'd underestimated me for the last time. I'm Dan Crawford, and after weeks of digging, I had Emily and Kyle right where I wanted them. My wife, now Nexlify's CEO, and her assistant-turned-lover had been playing me for a fool, faking sales, sabotaging my work, and sneaking around behind my back. Armed with Liz's data, Tom's photos, and a live portal showing Kyle's $3 million in ghost revenue, I was ready to strike. The San Francisco skyline glittered outside our condo, but inside, I was a coiled spring. Tomorrow's sales update was their stage until I made it mine. Friday morning hit like a storm. I walked into Nexlify's glass-walled boardroom 5 minutes early, my laptop loaded with evidence. Emily sat at the head, poised and polished, Kyle beside her with that smug grin I'd grown to hate. The board trickled in Clara from HR, Jim the CFO, and a dozen others, chatting like it was just another day. Emily caught my eye. Dan, you're quiet lately, she said, her tone too casual. Hope you're ready to back up Kyle's numbers. I smirked. Oh, I'm ready. She frowned, But before she could dig, Jim called the meeting to order. Kyle stood first, all swagger. Q3's a win, folks, he said, clicking through slides. Sales up 20%, thanks to my team's hustle. We're projecting $5 million by year-end. The board nodded, impressed. I let him talk, my pulse steady. Emily chimed in. Kyle's leadership's been key. Dan's support team is helping, but sales are the backbone. That was my cue. I stood, voice calm. Mind if I jump in? Emily's eyes narrowed. Go ahead. I plugged in my laptop, projecting the live sales portal. Kyle's right. Sales look great on paper, I said, clicking to the raw data. But let's check reality. Here's the real-time feed. Every deal, every dollar. I scrolled, highlighting gaps. Funny thing, $3 million of Kyle's wins don't exist. Ghost revenue logged, but never closed. The room went still. Kyle shifted, his grin faltering. That's a glitch, he stammered. Tech spin, no glitch, I cut in, pulling up Liz's files. Here's the proof, unlogged returns, inflated projections. Signed off by Emily. Gasps rippled. Jim leaned forward. What does this mean? It means fraud, I said, locking eyes with Emily. Kyle's tanking sales down 15% since he took over, not up. Emily's covering it, slashing my support numbers to make him shine. She shot up. Dan, that's absurd. You're twisting, am I? I interrupted, clicking on her doctored report. Here's your draft. My stats cut in half, is juiced. Explain that. Her face paled. Kyle jumped in. She didn't know. I save it. I snapped, then hit play on Tom's video. The screen flared. Emily and Kyle, motel parking lot, tangled up, laughing. The board erupted, shocked murmurs, a choked Jesus from Clara. Emily's voice shook. Dan, stop this. This is personal, not personal. I cut her off, cold. You made it personal when you screwed my career for him. I turned to Jim. Sales are bleeding, $3 million in losses already. Research is next if this keeps up. You've got a CEO and her assistant cooking the books and each other. Jim's jaw tightened. Emily, is this true? She stammered. I didn't. Kyle tried. It's not what it looks. I shut my laptop. It's exactly what it looks like. I filed for divorce, and I'm suing Nexlify for ethics breaches. You'll hear from my lawyer. The room exploded, board members shouting, Emily yelling, Dan, you can't. I didn't flinch. Watch me. I grabbed my bag and walked out, their chaos fading behind me. In the elevator, my phone buzzed. Liz. You okay? She asked. Better than ever, I said, a grim smile tugging my lips. I just torched their world, and it felt damn good. That night, I crashed at a hotel near the bay, and the evidence backed up on a cloud drive. Emily texted, we need to talk. I replied, talk to my attorney. She called 5 times. I let it ring. Saturday, Jim left a voicemail. Dan, let's meet. We can fix this. Too late. I'd already emailed HR my resignation, effective immediately, and CC'd the board. Number 90-day notice, just a clean break. Sunday, my lawyer, Kelly, called. Divorce papers are ready, she said. And the lawsuit? Slam dunk, fraternization, fraud, retaliation. Nexlify screwed. I nodded. Serve Emily at the office. Make it public. Monday, I watched from a coffee shop across the street as process servers hit Nexlify's lobby. Emily's face, pale, stunned, flashed through the glass as she took the papers. Kyle slunk out an hour later, head down. My phone pinged, Liz again. Board's in panic mode. Emily's on thin ice. I sipped my espresso. Good. The trap had sprung, and they were caught, legally, publicly, irreversibly. I wasn't done yet, but this was victory enough for now. I'm Dan Crawford, and after exposing Emily and Kyle's lies at Nexlify, I walked away from the wreckage with my head high. My wife, the CEO who'd betrayed me and her assistant-turned-lover had tanked my career and marriage, but I'd flipped the script. With their fraud and affair laid bare in that San Francisco boardroom, I'd filed for divorce and sued the company. Now, I was ready to watch the fallout and start over. The view from my hotel window across the bay felt like a clean slate, but I wasn't done until they paid the full price, legally and publicly. The next week was a blur of chaos for them, not me. Monday morning, my lawyer, Kelly, served Emily the divorce papers right in Nexlify's lobby. I tipped off a local tech blogger, and by noon, CEO's Affair Sparks lawsuit was trending. Emily's stunned face as she clutched the envelope made the rounds online, sweet justice. Kyle slunk out the back, dodging cameras, but the damage was done. Liz texted me. Board's freaking out. Emergency meetings on. I grinned, sipping coffee at a shop down the street. Let me know how it goes, I replied. An hour later, she did. Emily suspended pending investigation. Kyle's out, fired on the spot. I leaned back. The weight lifting. Step 1, complete. Tuesday, Jim, the CFO, called. His voice was shaky, a far cry from his usual boardroom bark. Dan, we need to talk. This lawsuit, it's killing us. Can we settle? I let him stew in silence for a beat. What's the offer? He cleared his throat. $2 million. No strings. We drop everything. You walk away. I smirked. Tempting, but I'll think it over. You've got till Friday. I hung up, knowing they'd sweat. Kelly laughed when I told her. They're desperate, she said. Your case is airtight. Fraternization, fraud, retaliation. We could push for $5 million. I nodded. Let's see how high they climb. The divorce moved fast. Emily tried fighting it. Her lawyer sent a whining letter about shared assets and emotional distress. Kelly shredded it. She cheated, doctored reports, and cost you your job, she said. She's got nothing. By Wednesday, Emily caved, signing off on a clean split. No alimony, no condo, just freedom. I didn't want her money. I wanted her gone. That night, I packed my stuff and shipped it to a storage unit. The condo was hers now, a hollow prize for a hollow victory. Thursday, the board's investigation hit the news. Nexlify CEO falsified data, hid affair, the headline screamed. Liz leaked me the report. $3.2 million in losses tied to Kyle's fake sales, Emily's signatures all over it. The board ousted her that afternoon, unanimous vote. She was done. Kyle, meanwhile, vanished from the tech scene. A buddy later told me he'd landed a gig hawking phone chargers at a strip mall in Oakland. Poetic. I toasted to that with a beer, alone in my hotel room, the city lights winking like they were in on it. Friday, Jim called again. Dan, $3 million, final offer. Please, we're bleeding here. I paused, savoring it. Deal, I said. Wire it by Monday, and the lawsuit's gone. He exhaled, relief dripping through the line. Thank you. I hung up, texting Kelly. We're good. She replied, congrats, champ. Drinks on me next week. The money hit my account Monday morning. $3 million, tax-free, a nice cushion for what came next. Nexlify's stock dipped 10%, but I didn't care. They dug their grave. I could have stopped there, but I had one last move. A competitor, TechPulse in Seattle, had been sniffing around since the scandal broke. Their CEO, Rachel, called on Tuesday. Dan, we've seen what you did at Nexlify, turning support around, exposing the rot. We need a COO. Interested? I smiled. What's the package? She didn't hesitate. $500K base, equity, full control of ops. I leaned back. I'm in. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane, San Francisco fading below me. Seattle was a fresh start. No ghosts, no baggage. Months later, I heard the epilogue. Emily resurfaced in Austin, heading marketing for a tiny ad firm. A steep fall from CEO. Kyle was still peddling chargers, dumped by Emily when the dust settled. Nexlify clawed back, but their rep took a hit they'd feel for years. Me? I'm thriving at TechPulse, ops humming under my watch. I don't date, too busy building something new. The $3 million in investments, growing quietly. I'm not bitter, just focused. The lesson? Trust can break, but so can the people who betray it. Emily and Kyle thought they'd bury me, but I rose instead. Justice isn't loud, it's steady, legal, and relentless. I proved that. Now, I'm living proof you don't need revenge, just results.